Welcome back, folks. We are talking today about the Monitoring and Controlling Process Group. Now, I do apologize. It seems as though Facebook has some issues going on tonight with a little bit of lag and some picture shimmering. But let's get started and talk about the Monitoring and Controlling Process Group. Boy, oh boy, have I seen all sorts of scenarios, all sorts of permutations and combinations on the PMP exam. I've seen people pass monitoring and controlling, fail executing, and planning, and pass everything else. And some people do well on everything except monitoring and controlling. And you know, this area is so big that it could make or break your exam. And when I say big, I'm talking about how big it is in terms of the percentage of the exam. So monitoring and controlling is 25% of the PMP exam. If you take a look at the PMP exam content outline and go to page 9, if you want to follow along, that's really what I'm looking at tonight. So it's the fourth domain on the PMP exam. You know, we've talked about initiating, we've talked about planning, we've talked about executing. Tonight, monitoring and controlling. Now, if I were to ask you, which part of monitoring and controlling do you hate the most? Or which part of monitoring and controlling do you like the most? I'm sure I'll get all sorts of contributions from people. But the part that most people, don't like about the PMP exam is earned value. You know, a lot of people are afraid of earned value. So I would like to hone in a little bit on earned value as we go through this. So I want to go straight to the tasks. Task 1, it says measure project performance using appropriate tools and techniques in order to identify and quantify any variances and corrective action. So the really big thing here about the PMP exam when it comes to monitoring and controlling and calculations is earned value. There are a lot of formulas when it comes to earned value. You've got 4 formulas for EAC alone. You've got formulas that can be extracted for ETC. You've got formulas for risk when it comes to expected monetary value and so on. So this is, so to speak, the formula process group. Lots of formulas here, folks. You know, we spend time putting together our schedule, but when it comes to actually calculating where you are, you know, on a live project, leads and lags could come into play, stuff like that. And the whole discussion about network diagrams, it could also apply to monitoring and controlling, not just planning. The second task, it says manage changes to the project by following the change management plan in order to ensure that project goals remain aligned with business needs. This area is huge. It is really big. If you're one of our students, you're on our learning system, you definitely want to look for the videos that talk about change management questions on the PMP exam. You're going to have a lot of change management questions, I can assure you. And of course, it all revolves around monitoring and controlling. Task 3, verify that project deliverables conform to the quality standards established in the quality management plan. So we're talking about you checking the deliverable. You know, I talked about a difference between performing quality assurance versus controlling quality. They're 2 different things. So in ensuring that your deliverable conforms to the quality standards, we're talking about control quality. Task 4, monitor and assess risk by assessing or by determining whether exposure has changed and evaluating the effectiveness of response strategies in order to manage the impact of risks and opportunities on the project. So we're talking about looking at your risk register, doing an assessment of the risk register, making sure that the risks are where you left them, or if they've changed, making sure that reflects in your strategies and plans. We have 3 more. Task 5, review the issue log, update if necessary, and determine corrective actions by using appropriate tools and techniques. So the issue log, a lot of times people don't mention the issue log, but if you take a look at the managed stakeholder engagement process, you find the issue log. Spend some time reading the issue log because that becomes an input to your controlling of stakeholder engagement. Okay. Task 6, capture, analyze, and manage lessons learned using continuous lessons learned management techniques. So this is really referring to all of those processes within the monitoring and controlling process group, that always have organizational process assets updates as an output. You know which ones those are. And last but not least, monitor procurement activities according to the procurement plan in order to verify compliance with project objectives. So that's pretty much it for monitoring and controlling. One page. And I've talked about the importance of the PMP exam content outline. A lot of people do not read it, but I would highly advise you to read it because this is what the PMP exam is based on. It's based on the PMP exam content outline. So go through the content outline, tasks 1 to 7, and get good for your PMP exam. Now, in the monitoring and controlling process group, like I said, you will have questions on change requests, on the whole idea of change management. And to do well on this, you really need to be thinking about what happens when a change request comes in. A few things people often miss as they read the PMBOK guide. One, they miss the fact that change requests are not bad. Not all change requests should, immediately be looked at as trouble. Some change requests are good. Something else people miss as they study or as they read the PMBOK guide is that change requests could be filtered by the project manager. The project manager could take a look at change requests, certain change requests, and say, this is not going to make it to the change control board, or the project manager may actually be part of the change control board. Like in a projectized firm, the PM may call the shots. So don't make the mistake of thinking that, every change request has to go through a body of people different from the PM. Typically it does in the world of the PMI, but if you read the PMBOK guide closely, go read it, Perform Integrated Change Control, you'll find out that the project manager and the sponsor, these two folks, could decide that a change request is approved or rejected. The change control board may not be as robust in every firm. And for that reason, the project manager, senior managers, other people that may not necessarily be called a change control board could be involved in that whole change process. So when a change request comes in, what do you want to do? You first of all want to make sure it's in formal writing. You want to make sure it's following the process. If it needs to be entered into some sort of database, do that. You also want to enter it into a change log. That's good practice. Enter your change request into the change log. And then after everything is formalized, you begin to work on it. You begin to identify what is the impact of time, cost, scope, what are the risks, so on and so forth. After you've done your analysis with your team, the next thing is to pass it on to the next authority. It could be the sponsor. As I said, not every question on the PMP exam is going to test you about a change control board. It may be implicit. It may imply that senior management is making a decision, but they're not necessarily called a change control board. It could be a sponsor. You see, that's how people could get questions wrong. Don't just jump at the question's answer because it says change control board. It could say something else. So after you pass it to the change control board and they begin to do the assessment, the next thing that happens is that change request is either approved or rejected or put on hold. And that change request goes through the right channels. It goes through the funnels until it gets to the change log again. Of course, the PM takes it, puts it into the change log. That change log should get distributed to stakeholders in the stakeholder management knowledge area. And after it gets distributed and people know what's happening with the change, the project manager and the team begin to execute the change. They begin to do what they said they were going to do, or the change remains on hold. Okay? So this aspect I've talked about is a really big part of the monitor and control, or the monitoring and controlling process group. Okay? So that's pretty much what I would like to talk about regarding the monitoring and controlling process group. I'm just going to give you a quick recap of how much we've done so far. So we've talked about initiating, 13% of the exam. We've talked about planning, 24% of the exam. We've talked about executing, oh my goodness, 31% of the exam. We've talked about monitoring and controlling. Today, 25% of the exam. And all we have left is 7%. 7% left for closing. So I will talk about closing between now and next week, and it will be off to the races. You guys will be armed to go face the exam. You know, if you are looking for a great course to take for the PMP exam, don't forget, go to pmsucceed.com. And if you've got any questions that I can answer for you, just drop them right here under this video. Thank you very much. I wish you all the very best on the exam. You're going to need all the best wishes you can get. Trust me, as it gets closer and closer to the 6th edition, people become more frantic. You got more people taking the exam, and it becomes a little bit tricky to navigate. Speak to you soon. Bye for now.